Welcome back to Market Headline. The Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, or Bkpm, recorded investment realizations of 826.3 trillion rupiah throughout 2020. Bkpm claimed that the realizations exceeded the target set of 817.2 trillion rupiah.
The Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, or Bkpm, recorded investment realization of 826.3 trillion rupiah throughout 2020. Bkpm claimed that the realization exceeded the target set of 817.2 trillion rupiah.
Realisasi investasi kita itu mencapai 826,3 triliun dari target investasi kita 817,2 triliun. Artinya ada kenaikan kurang lebih sekitar 9 triliun ya Tina ya?
Ya, selisihnya dari target 9,1
triliun. Dari target. Jadi ada kenaikan 9 triliun.
Bahlil explained that the initial target for investment realization in 2020 was 886 trillion rupiah. However, the target must be revised to 817.2 trillion rupiah due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In other words, the realization of investment from January to December 2020 was 101.1% of the target and grew by 2.1% year-on-year. Meanwhile, more specifically, the realization in the fourth quarter of 2020 was 214.7 trillion rupiah, 2.7% higher compared to the previous quarter, and increased by 3.1% from the same quarter in 2019. From all sources, for IDX Channel.
Yes, viewers, in the component that make up Indonesia's GDP in terms of expenditure, investment is the second largest contributor below the household consumption. So, therefore, an impressive investment realization will certainly support the national economic growth. So, how was the investment realizations the past year in 2020? Let's take the data in the following infographic series. Through your screen, we can see there are two indicators in here, January to December 2019 and January to December 2020. Here it is, we can see the proportions between foreign direct investment and domestic direct investment. In 2019, the FDI was bigger than the DDI. But however, then in the January 2020 up to December 2020, it becomes so balanced between FDI and the DDI. We can see that the FDI proportions is 49.9%, while the DDI is in the level of 50.1%. This is nearly in match, doesn't it? And Bkpm stated that prior to the pandemic, the investment realizations target was 886 trillion rupiah, but after the pandemic, it was revised to be only 817 trillion rupiah. On this basis, Bkpm stated that the investment realizations in 2020 exceeded the target. Then what's interesting is, based on the data, domestic investment dominated by 50.1% of the total realization, or an increase of 7% year-on-year. And from the data, it can be seen that the domestic investment plays an important role in the realizations of the investment in 2020, or in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, which is even considered capable of being a bulwark for the decline in foreign investment. But however, the decline in foreign direct investment was tolerable, as it was recorded only a 2.4% drop, only 2%, so it's not a big deal. So, or better than the projections of a 30% decline in the global investment interest. So, of the total investment realizations, where are the sectors that are the main target of the investors? Let's check it out through the next graphic. Yes, through your screen, we can see which sectors that is favorable by the investors in 2020. First of all, we can see the transportations, warehouse, and telecommunications that become the leading sector of the favorable ones from the investors by 17.5%. And then moving on to the second leading sector, which is electricity, gas, and water sector, and dominated by 12.3% of the whole investments. And moving on to the third one, by basic metal industry and stuffs, by the contributor by 11.5%. And the fourth one, moving on to housing, industrial, and offices by 9.2% and constructions by 8.6%, and while others by 40%. And then Bkpm revealed that 16 companies relocated their business to Indonesia throughout 2020. And the total investment from the relocations was nearly 7.15 billion US dollar. And apart from these 16 companies, Bkpm mentioned that there are still 14 companies that have interest in relocating their business to Indonesia, where the investment value is estimated at 19.68 billion US dollar. And meanwhile, based on the data, the metal industry sector is starting to become a leading sector. The improvement in the base metal industry is believed as a sign of diminishing symptoms of the industrializations in the past few years, which is believed to be in line with downstream policies set by the government. And then let's see which countries that the investment realizations came from in the next graphic. So here it is through your screen. We can see investment realizations based on the country of origin. First things first, we got the leading country for the investment, which is Singapore, by 9.8 billion US dollar in 2020. And then moving on to China with an investment worth 4.8 billion US dollar for a pass through 2020. And moving on to its sister country, Hong Kong, by the investment value of 3.5 billion US dollar throughout 2020. Indonesia, and moving on to Japan by 2.6 billion US dollar, and South Korea by 1.8 billion US dollar, and also others that is contributing around 6.2 billion US dollar. But if we dig deeper, since 2015, Singapore has always dominated the realizations of foreign investment. But it must be admitted that Singapore's investment realizations in 2020 amounted 9.8 billion US dollar, with a percentage of 34.1%, was the biggest achievement compared to the previous years. And in addition, China and Japan are also recorded consistent investment, as seen from the investment realizations for the last 5 years. With a good investment achievement throughout 2020, then how was the absorptions of Indonesian workers during the last year? So let's check it through the next graphic. And yes, viewers, through your screen, we can see on how the investment can absorb workforce in Indonesia. First thing first, in the first quarter of 2020, through the data, we can see that there are 303,000 workforce absorptions, while in the second quarter, the number declined to be 263,000 workforce. In the third quarter, it began to rise again by 295,000 Indonesian workers, and also in the fourth quarter of 2020, the number becomes stable in the range of 294,000 workforce. And the positive trend in investment realizations last year is deemed necessary to be accompanied by a precise strategy in restoring the employment. And to do this, the government must choose the right sector that has a multiplier effect and allow the expansion. Deputy Chairpersons of Indonesian Employers Associations, Bob Azam, say that the sectors that have multiplier effect and allow them to expand in the COVID-19 pandemic are manufacturing, agriculture, SMEs, and this is because the three factors are very contributive in the terms of employment, economic growth, and also provisions of a basic necessity for the public consumptions. And meanwhile, this year, Bkpm targets the realizations of investment to reach 900 trillion rupiah, with at least 1.3 million jobs being absorbed. And yes, viewers, although uncertainty still looms over the economy, including the terms of investment, it should not be the basis of pessimism, but it must be overcome with optimism and, of course, improvement in all sides to support the investment realizations. Of course, have a positive impact on the absorptions of the domestic workforce. And stay tuned to market headlines. Information about Indonesian capital market will be presented shortly after the break.